minor, what the reasons that render minor sins major. We already did what are minor sins and major sins generally, but what makes a minor sin a major sin? And that is basically these 5 things. The insistence and persistence upon it, a minor sin. Yeah? So there being no sense of qala', no sense of uprooting it, or being a minor sin, being more attentive about not doing it. It's just, this isn't just a matter of a minor sin that you are falling into, yeah? This is a minor sin that you're doing with a sense of kind of intention as well. If you get what I mean, that's what's making it a major sin. That's what israr and muwadhaba is, yeah? Second, which takes a minor sin to being major, is belittling the sin as nothing. It's nothing. Allah forgives sins, you know, between one salah to another salah, from a Jummah to a Jummah, Ramadan to Ramadan, you know. This, to belittle, yastasghir al-dham, to belittle any sin is, so if Allah is reminding you of something that you know is wrong, but you try to justify it away. So when we say belittling as well, justification comes into it. You know, you try and justify it. You know, justifying it means what? You're trying to tell yourself that it was out of your responsibility. You know, it happened and it was out of my responsibility. You know, you're trying to get to a place where you're trying to exonerate yourself, make yourself not responsible. That's what you mean. I don't want to use the word guilty. I don't want to say guilty, because guilty is a word that is very Christian-esque, right? Christians use that, sin and guilt, right? We have remorse, of course, over sin. We already explained what it means to have that nadam. Do you remember that Imam Ghazzali, when we started repentance, he always starts with what? He talks about it on the level of the inward condition from where repentance should start. And what did he say? What does he say in reference to that? He says that it's this disquietude, you know, the state. First is having the knowledge. Sins cause serious harm to the heart, man. They mess up the soul and they affect your relationship with Allah. The second is what? This state of affair that comes about from it, right? Which is the pain. You know, the pain, the ache of separation, knowing that this is what's going on. You know that feeling, right? That is what's very important to be present with any sin. You don't try and bypass that with what? With a sense of, it's okay. Minor or major, you see the point? You've got to stop it. That's not right. That's where you make istighfar, you move on, yeah? But when you get that ache and then you try and say, it's okay, don't matter. Everyone does it. Everyone does it. You know, at the end of the day, this is what happens. We end up justifying things by equating ourselves with everyone else. Everyone do it, so, you know, how can I be at the end of the day, I'm like everyone else, right? I'm just a person. I'm just this, I'm just that. So the mediocrity, you know, being mediocre becomes something that you end up aligning yourself to as a reason of justifying this. Dangerous, yeah? Third thing that can make a minor sin, which is the other thing, a kabira, a major sin, is that you have a happiness in it, an actual elation. You know, like you actually, right? Which is a way of what? You've lost that awareness in yourself and your heart's connection with Allah. You understand? Hence, on this point, there's something to remember. People, this is why we can only call something is haram because of the outwardness of it being haram. Yeah, of course, that's haram. You shouldn't do that. But the state in which people do something in which is haram, you know where their heart is in the haram that they're doing, it varies. In people, it varies. You get what I'm trying to say? Because there's people who can do the haram, but while they do it, their heart is always telling them, nah, that's wrong. You know, I shouldn't do that. they haven't yet come to that place of enough ache and resolve, right, to start to make an actioning that is in agreement to the ache of their heart, which is going to bring the change. You get what I'm saying? And that is a really important point, because if a Muslim is doing haram things and their heart is in shame, it's still connected back to Allah, that's a lifeline. That's still a lifeline. Do you see what I mean? You know, and when people are on their own and they're sitting in their room by themselves, none of their mates are there, none of the show's there, none of the bravado's there, huh? You can't hide from yourself. You're forced, you're forced to have certain you realize their realization can happen. It starts to ache them. You see? Right? Listen.
Is it like someone addicted to drugs and then they're just addicted to it, they can't really help but going back to the addiction, and they have remorse in their heart? Yeah, of course. Addictions are a really good example of that, because it's obviously repetitive, and each time, for many, it's something that they almost know that they don't want to do it, and it's not because they don't want to do it, just from the point of it makes them feel bad. They don't want to do it because they know it's not pleasing to Allah. Do you get what I mean? There's people who don't want to do drugs, who don't believe in God, yeah? But they don't want to do it because it ends up making them afterwards just feel not right. But they haven't got the frame of reference that is it their conscience that's making them not feel right in their relationship of how they should be with Allah, right? But then there's people who believe, who know that. There's Muslims that have that, but they know that I should not be doing that because of my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be different, right? Why? So this third one makes it an enormity. Why? That's being cast aside. Do you get what I mean? That is now totally, like it's an immersion in the haram with full on heedlessness and a delight. Like you've totally given to it in themselves, like with a real love of it. Astaghfirullah. That's lethal. The fourth thing that can make something a minor, a major sin, is that it being minor, you're taking the veil that Allah has placed over it. Because most things happen, no one sees it, only you and Allah. But what do you take it? You take that veil that Allah has placed between you and Allah for granted. You're just you understand? So what is this telling us? It's telling that with minor sins, what is powerful, we're being also reminded that when there's a minor sin and you're seeing it, not only are you supposed to just make a tawbah by saying astaghfirullah, but you should also recognize that Allah has put a veil over that. Do you get what I'm saying? And for one to belittle that veil, belittle the veil that Allah put over it. How does one belittle the veil that Allah has put over it? You end up talking about it. You end up, telling the world about it. Huh? And this is why we head towards the age of shamelessness, right? There's no shame. There's almost like there's more of people who give you more applause, more likes. The more shameless you are, the more likes you get. All of that makes something that might seemingly be something major. It can turn it into being major. So lifting the veil. And the last of the serious sins is more to do with the individual, and that is the sin of a scholar. So the reason why Ghazali says, remember he's talking about minor sins becoming major, because many people look at them for how to do things, right? So that's why the slips of a scholar can turn into being major, because of what? The potential of people following them in that, more likely to start to follow them in that, because they see them as what? A justification. At the end of the day, what do people do now? They say, well, he's a scholar, isn't it? So he said you can do it,